Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Brokers Traders Tea Time with me, Darius Chauskas. Today is the 12th of July 2018, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this afternoon session where we're going to have a look at a few instruments that I picked, and I believe that they're quite interesting to have a look at. But before we do that, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So the content of this webinar does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Also, just a very quick reminder of our JFD Brokers research page, where we update it on a daily basis for our different trading shoutouts, and of course we produce our daily analysis that we throw out every morning. So feel free to check us out, guys, and I think you can find something useful for yourselves here. But for now, let's have a look at the charts. So the first one I want to touch on is the Dow Jones. So Dow Jones, I was talking about this one on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, and certainly we saw a nice retreat here today. Well, yesterday actually, we saw a nice retreat to the downside, and this is something that I was showing you to you guys. I mean, a potential move here. So we almost managed to reach this area here, this potential area of resistance between the 25,100 and the 25,000, the psychological 25,000. So certainly if we see a nice break above this area here, then we could expect maybe potentially this one moving a little bit higher. Maybe even actually a good level to watch here could be this 25,450. But for now we can see that it retraced to the downside. The level here then on the downside we're keeping an eye on closely is the 24,575, approximately there, because this could eventually act as a nice area of support here. Certainly the way we could position ourselves for a possible trade here, if we look at a 4-hour chart here right now, and you can see that we've got this upwards moving support line. This let's call it a bit of a tentative one, to be honest, and but nevertheless it still kind of directs us to the upside. We can see that this area here, this 24,575 approximately there, acted as a nice area of support here, then resistance around here in the end of June, and we could end up testing that level again. Certainly at the moment it seems like it is moving lower. We could end up moving a little bit lower here again. So keep an eye on this one, guys. I mean, certainly if we do get a move lower here, we could end up testing this, and then we could eventually see another bounce here to the upside, where we could start aiming for the psychological 25,000 initially, and then slightly a little above that, the 25,100. So certainly for now, because we're at this tricky spot, I would probably suggest that it would be difficult to kind of enter short here, or along here. I do apologize, enter along here, because just like I said, just in case if this moves below this level, the 24,575, and then aims for this upside, tentative upside support line for a test. So for now, probably a good potential entry for a potential long position could be around this area here above the 25,100. Now a nice close, a nice break and a close above this level on a daily chart, then could confirm a potential move higher, maybe initially aiming for this 25,400 and slightly above the 25,450. This is where you could put your stop loss as well. I mean, you could end up putting your stop loss somewhere around the 24,950, just slightly below the psychological level, just in case it slightly overshoots it to the downside. And so you could at least protect yourself this way. But nevertheless, if this moves below the 24,950, then I mean, it could start rolling over to the downside again. So that's why probably a potential idea here, a potential trade idea could be possible here with a possible with an entry of around 25,100, and then aiming for these higher levels. But certainly you make you make the call, whatever you're more conveying, that to keep an eye on this 12,515. So certainly we can see that the index managed to reach the 12,500 level, just slightly, of course, overshot the 12,500, but nevertheless, this kind of area, this area around the 12,515 acted as a nice area of resistance, where we can see that the index is now pushing lower. Certainly the day has not finished. We might actually maybe reverse back up here and start breaking this one, but at the moment it doesn't seem that that could be the case. So if we start moving lower here, and let's say if we start aiming moving towards these lows that we had here recently, well, yesterday to be more precise, and around the 12,400, if we start breaking that, well, if this could eventually play out nicely, because we could start aiming for the 12,300 in that case. So a nice 100-point move here could be possible if we get a nice break here below the 12,400, guys. So keep an eye on it. Now let's quickly touch on one of the commodities here. So the Brent, now the Brent oil, let's put a daily chart quickly on this one, and so we can see that yesterday Brent was met with heavy selling here. We managed to make a move lower. Certainly the commodity still is above this upwards moving trend line that has been running here since around the 22nd of June, something like that. So very good potential area of support here around this upwards moving trend line, and of course that level is around approximately the 72.50 mark. So now, so it is difficult to talk about the longer term downward scenario here. For that one, we would need to see a nice break, well, not only below this upwards moving trend line, but also a break below the 72.50, and actually preferably is to see a close here below these two lines. Now this is where we could then start aiming for the 71.25, and if that doesn't hold, well, we do have some better levels underneath here at around 66.95, or we can actually even round it up to the 67 mark. So approximately there is just an approximate area here. So some things for you guys to keep an eye on, and certainly, like I said, this is a scenario, this is a potential scenario only if we get a nice close here below this upwards moving trend line and this 72.50 mark. Certainly this, as you can see by the arrows here, probably you can imagine that if we do get a nice bounce here, if this upwards moving trend line continues to hold, well, this could move back up here towards this level initially at around 75.85. Slightly above that, we do have a good one as well. So basically it creates this little area here between the 75.85 and the 76.45, so where it could potentially kind of stall for a little bit, where, you know, the bulls and the bears would start battling it out, and, you know, who is going to sit and take the driver's seat here. But if the bulls take control, well, I mean, a further move here above the 76.45 could be seen as a positive, and that we could start aiming for these highs that we had here around, well, the beginning of July. So yep, good levels to watch here, guys, and that's around the 79.15, 79.50 even. So basically this area. So I'm just marking here the first initial kind of target. So certainly could potentially move a little bit higher here, but nevertheless, like I said, I'll just mark the closest one. And so something like this, I mean, could be possible at this point. To be honest, it is difficult to even actually even talk about a potential trade here. Just like I said, we need to see either a nice move here towards this upwards moving trend line, and then of course a break below that I was just talking about, or actually a reversal here, potential reversal, and then a move higher here. Certainly if you're trading shorter term, looking at the 4-hour chart, we can see that this is pushing lower nicely. At this point, like I said, even though, yeah, you can try to maybe short it here, but to be honest, be very careful. Be very, very careful, because this could suddenly reverse back to the upside. You know, we've seen this happening many times, and like I said, just be on the safe side, to be honest, and wait for a better price formation here, and better formation here on the daily chart. let's have a look at a few pairs now quickly until I run out of time again. So the Euro Aussie, now this is what I wanted to show you, and certainly we can see that we have been climbing higher here since it reversed back to the upside on around the 5th of June. Yep, and certainly we continue to climb higher, push higher, and this is where it found its resistance at around this 158.75, or even actually you could say 158.85 mark. So nevertheless, around this area we found the pair found its nice area of resistance. So and of course we can see that as well. Something which is developing quite nicely here is a nice range here, a nice little wide range between the 158.75 approximately there and the 157 mark. So continue monitoring this range, guys. Certainly this is in terms of, if let's say, positioning yourselves for a longer term trade. So probably recommendation here could be the wait for a nice break and a close either through the upper side here or the downside here, so in order to kind of take a longer term position. On the 4-hour chart, if we have a look at quickly at that one, there we go, then flick. And so this is what we're seeing right now, and we're seeing a nice reversal here from this 158.75, which happened yesterday, and we're seeing this push continuation to the downside. Now this is where it could become interesting, because we're currently seeing that this is getting held here by this, initially it got held here by the 100 EMA, and now it's just hanging around this 21 EMA. So be very careful here. Certainly there is a potential for this one to move lower again, to move towards the downside, towards this 157 mark, I mean, for a potential test, but we could eventually maybe see something like a reversal back to the upside a little bit here, bouncing around. So basically range trading. So I mean, we could see a reversal back to the upside and then another move lower here if, let's say, this 158.75 mark continues to hold. So that's why I would probably recommend to stay very cautious, and certainly there is, like I said, there is some potential for this one to move towards the 157, just because judging by this range formation that's happening here. But nevertheless, like I said, be careful, because we could maybe see something like a scenario that we had, for example, here in the beginning of July, where it continued to move lower here, but then actually reversed quickly back to the upside, and then basically it was like a bit of a choppy session here. So it's an interesting pair, especially looking from the bigger picture, but on the shorter term picture, be very careful. Looking at the GBPCAD, now this is another good one, and for this one I will jump in probably straight into the 4-hour chart. So for this one, you can see that it's kind of getting held here by this upside support line here that has been running since around the 2nd of July, and it's continuing to climb higher, and continues to kind of hold to this upside support line. But nevertheless, I mean, you can see that we're having these false breakouts, but we can never have the body kind of closing below this support line. So probably on a shorter term picture, let's say if we're looking at the 4-hour chart, wait for the body to close below this upside support line. Now this is probably when it could become a bit more interesting, because then we could at least probably aim for a little lower levels here again. But for now, we can see that we're getting these tails here only, but the body still remains above the upside support line. So this is something for you guys to kind of keep an eye on. Certainly on the upper side, we do have this nice area of resistance at around 174.500. This is applying this applies the same thing applies towards this upside as well. So if we do get a nice close here on the 4-hour chart above the 174.500, this is when it could become more interesting, and we could potentially start targeting this 175.700, guys. So watch out for this one. At the moment, this is kind of getting squeezed here a little bit, but could be an interesting trade if we get a nice pop. And the last pair that I really wanted to touch on quickly, and that's New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. And let's quickly look at the daily chart. So this is what I wanted to show you, and we are in the falling wedge formation. So we can see that we had a nice bounce here in the beginning of July. We bounced back to the upside, and now we are testing this area here at around around 76.15, something like that, maybe slightly above it. But nevertheless, still, it seems that it wants to continue pushing higher towards this upper side of the falling wedge formation. Something for you guys to keep on monitoring. And if we've put a 4-hour chart here, there we go. Oh, let me just kind of bring it back here a little bit. So there we go. We can see that we are currently breaking this key area of resistance just right here, and that's, like I said, that is around between the 76,100 and the 76,250 approximately there. So basically, if we get a nice pop here above this, then we could start positioning ourselves for some higher levels. Initially, maybe actually not aiming for this one that I've got highlighted here at around 77.15, but actually aiming for slightly lower levels, something like here at around 76.85 mark approximately there. A good potential area to watch, but only if we get a nice pop here above the 76.250. And like I said, then we can probably start considering a potential move towards this area, and this could potentially look something like this. Let me just highlight that for you guys quickly. So if we for a potential entry point here, we could start aiming for the 76.85 mark, certainly from the 76.25, and with a potential stop loss around here somewhere at around 75.85 mark. So in order to kind of protect yourself, guys. So something like this could be possible. Certainly this is just an idea, this is just a trade idea, but yep, and like I said, you'll be the judge, and you make your call. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you found it useful, and as always, please join me tomorrow morning at my Traders Espresso at 6 o'clock GMT time, 7 o'clock British Summer Time. But for now, thank you very much.